Hello and welcome back to our nightly live stream. I'm Scott,
And I'm Tina.
and we are live from central Mississippi, and we're trying to bring you this homesteading, uh, nightly homesteading information and allow you to chat also. Tonight, we're talking about some budget hacks, cheap ways to get by, some tips that might help you if you're trying to get by on a budget. And I think we all are trying to get by on some kind
Yeah,
of
on
budget.
some kind of budget. Mm.
so,
It says some ways to save money, or one thing that you want to think about is DIY projects. There's a lot of things that you can do yourself, and especially now that you have so many YouTube videos out there, there are so many of those that teach you how to do things for yourself. Anything that goes wrong or breaks, a lot of times you can just look it up, and you'll know how to fix it instead of just going out and buying something new if it's broken or whatever. So that's one of the things that you can think about doing is the DIY, do it yourself.
and I think that's where we save a lot of money, and that's how we're able to do a lot of other things. We pretty well now, if you're not a technical person, it may be a little harder for you, but we try to fix nearly everything we can. I think we do DIY pretty well everything.
Yeah. I mean, I've done the dryer belt before by myself.
That's right. She actually did. She ordered a dryer. The dryer broke one time, and
The belt. Yeah.
she actually
I took it apart and I did it myself.
and at some point our dishwasher broke, so we got to figure that out.
Yeah, we're not sure about the dishwasher though. We think that it may have had some burnt wires or something because it kind of smelled like it was burning. So we're not sure if we're going to be able to fix that ourselves, but we'll see.
Yeah. But on our car, we try to change our own oil most of the time. We do our maintenance on the car. Just you look up YouTube and
Go
some
step
of
by
them.
step. Yeah, a lot of the YouTubes are step by step, and it's really easy to follow on how to fix those things, or especially like changing your oil. There's plenty of that on there, and
Right.
that's really easy,
And-
to learn. Even if you have a tractor on the farm and you need to change the oil or the fluids in it, there's a lot of DIY, YouTube videos that'll help you do that on the
Yeah.
farm.
Now, do be careful. Make sure you don't get into something you're not sure about. But I think one of the big saving things is DIY. Try to do it yourself if you can do it safely. But I think that has been our biggest way of saving on the homestead is
For us,
for
yeah.
DIY. Another thing, we love to garden, and if you're looking to save money, try to see if you can save those seeds from year to year. Tomato seeds, there are different ways to do it, like peppers and some things like that. Some of the hybrids, you can't really do that, but the heirlooms, you can save the seeds and use those year after year. That's what our ancestors did.
Years ago, yeah.
So, but
Especially like peas and butter beans, those are extremely easy to save. You just kind of let them dry out and put them up. You can put them in a jar somewhere in a cool place, and they will be fine till the next year where you can plant them again. Corn, you kind of let it dry out the same way. Those are some easy things. Now, when you get to some maybe tomatoes and those kind of things, it's kind of a little bit harder to do
but
those.
you can still do it.
Yeah, you can. And again, plenty of YouTube videos that show you how to do those.
Now, I'm not sure, but like there are some commercial things that you can't do that legally. Did
Yeah.
you know that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so make sure you can do it legally if
Yeah.
it's a hybrid or something. But there's that's the way to do it. So with especially if you have the heirlooms, I think I don't think you can reuse seeds that are the hybrids.
No, you can't because they won't work. They won't grow fruit if you do. So, which is strange, really, to me.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you have a hybrid, but you can't grow anything from the seeds that come out of it. That's just so odd to me.
Yeah.
But that's the manufactured stuff. So we do try to use the, what do you call it?
Heirloom.
Heirloom seeds. So we'll be able to reuse those the next
Yeah, we
year.
have been trying to use more heirloom seeds, and they're I don't know. We just now there are the corn we do now we do buy new corn seed. We haven't gotten to the point where we could reuse the seeds, but like we do, the corn we buy is a hybrid corn, and we do have to, it's you do have to buy it, but
Every year, yeah.
'cause-
But it's really good. The corn that we get, we'll have to look up the name and discuss that
yeah,
one day about what we use for our seed, the different seeds we use for planting with. That corn actually does really well most every time. We've been able to produce some really sweet corn, and it's really good. But you can put that corn up once you
yeah.
once you harvest it out of the garden. It's easy to freeze some corn on the cob, and you can even make some cream corn out of that.
Yeah,
There's
but do
corn
make
pop.
sure it's legally okay for you to reuse seeds if
Right.
that.
Another thought, I know we talk about chickens a lot, but you can, instead of cleaning that whole, especially in the wintertime, because you want that litter to kind of build up, instead of cleaning the whole litter out, just spot clean it and then put your new litter on top for your shavings. And that way you save money and don't have to buy, new bags of shavings every time you turn around. So if you do that, that'll help too.
Yeah, and so another thing to do is one of the biggest expenses is the grocery store,
It
and I
really
think
is.
if you do it right and have a garden and maintain, the garden is not free, so don't think that, but there are ways you can save money by having a garden, and you can save at the grocery store also by maybe growing enough food to do
That's
around a
right.
year.
Put it in, and then whenever you're grocery shopping, look what you have in the pantry, and plan your meals around that. I mean, if you have a lot of garden vegetables put up from the summertime and you still have a lot of those, then plan your meals around that. Use your vegetables that you have in the freezer, and if you have a farm or a homestead and you've put up meat, you know, think of recipes around that meat that you've got in your freezer and in your pantry too. There's stuff, I know sometimes I'll buy too many cream of chicken soups. They'll just be in there, but that's okay. It lasts.
Yeah.
If it's canned, it stays in there and it lasts. So that's one thing when you're grocery shopping, and make a list. Which I have to admit, I'm really bad about making a list.
I
don't-
gave up on getting you to.
Yeah,
do a
yeah. I
list.
don't make a list, but so my advice is that you probably do need to make a list. It helps you, not forget things, run back to the grocery store because you forgot something, waste the gas to get there. And if you make that list, you'll know what you need at the grocery store the first time.
Yeah, and also, buy the store brands.
I mean, I buy a lot of times. I'll buy the store brand stuff. I find there's some things that don't taste quite as well, and that's usually like I don't like the store brand cheeses. A lot of times, I like the name brand. They just do taste better to me, But a lot of things, it doesn't really matter. A can of green beans, if you have to buy, vegetables from the store. An off-brand can of green beans doesn't taste any different than a name brand can of green beans because, when you're heating that up or whatever, I always use extra seasoning anyway. So that's one thing. Anything like that, a lot of times, the fruit that you're buying, if you have to buy fruit from the grocery store, the cheaper apples really don't taste any different than the expensive apples at the store.
Yeah, and remember you're talking about canned food, but remember that we're trying to get away from canned food as much as possible. But we're like a lot of other people. We're not there yet. You
really
do
aren't.
see a lot of homesteaders that they have a year's worth of food, but honestly, we're like everybody else. It's hard to do that.
It
we
really
have
is.
that goal. Don't get me wrong. We have that goal to have a year's worth of peas, a year's worth of corn, and that kind of thing.
Now, one thing that set us back is we didn't grow a garden this year.
Yeah.
So I've been having to buy a lot of vegetables that, we had a lot put up, but we've used them all. I know we had a lot of corn put up, but I've used it all. So now we're having to buy vegetables.
I think that is why, because we don't, last year we did have a garden.
Mm-hmm.
This year we had a lot of projects going on. We didn't have the garden. So, it did, we're
It is
paying
what it
the
is.
price.
That's right. That's
And
right. Another thing that you might do is if you have, say, you've cooked chicken and you have some leftover chicken, think of another meal that you can make with that leftover chicken. Be it, chicken tacos or something. If you've cooked some chicken breast and you have some left over, you can cut those up and make you some tacos out of that chicken. There's lots of things that you can do with leftover chicken, and even, ground beef, a roast. You can do lots of things with leftover meat from your roast. Or one thing I know is that if you live off of the land, we just had somebody give us some deer meat.
Yeah.
We did. And I spent most of the afternoon cutting that up and harvesting it myself. So that's one way that you can save money. Also, a lot of people, if they're a lot of people hunt and they kill deer, and they'll send it to the processing plant, and it has got to where it costs a pretty penny to get that processing plant to do your deer meat for you. So if you'll make a little bit of an investment, you can also do your own deer processing.
But
and
do
save
research
that.
it,
Yeah.
research it and make sure you can do it safely.
That's right. That's right. But, if you can do it safely and the right way, instead of sending it to the processor, 'cause I think it costs, I don't know, a pretty penny, $200 to process a deer now, nowadays. So, we do our own processing of the deer. We make us some deer steaks, which is just cleaning the deer and cutting the pieces, cleaning it really well. And then we do our own ground deer meat, and we have a thing for that. We made an investment in that, or my son did. And so we like to do our own, and that's one way that you can save money.
Yeah, exactly.
Processing the chickens, the meat birds. A lot of homesteaders do that, and process their own chickens,
And we're planning on doing that. We want to get into processing chickens. We want to make sure we have the right equipment too, and we know how to do it safely. So we haven't done it yet, but we are looking at doing that. But I've seen people do several months worth up front.
Yeah,
and put them in the freezer.
Always freeze your meat safely according to laws. Last 6 months in the freezer. Most meats do, and up to a year could probably be eaten. But I think the rule is 6 months on meat.
And always look that up on the type of meat you got too, to make sure that it's safe for you to eat and how long you can freeze it. But another thing that people do, and this is, I think this is a lot of people, and that's eating out. So, that
we're
adds
bad.
up.
We're terrible. we go out to eat too much. One thing is, I think like Scott still works a job where he has to go into work, and we're really bad about not sending him a lunch.
You kind of get in a hurry, go get something and come back, and it adds up. And,
it does. It adds up a lot.
Especially now with the food prices going up, it really adds up.
If you'll plan your meals, have your supper, have extra food, and then have that ready to go the next day, for a meal for whoever, is going to town or has to work or whatever. Or even if you're at home, if you'll fix you a plate of that leftover food for your lunch the next day, that saves a little bit of money. And, it's nice to go out to eat somewhere, but, maybe do that once a month instead of every weekend.
That reminds me when I was growing up, we didn't, my mother, she was very frugal, and we didn't go out to eat unless it was a treat. Like on a Friday night, every once in a while, we would go to Pizza Hut or something.
Yeah, nowhere
And
really.
yeah, it
nice.
wasn't any of these fancy restaurants.
Now
We didn't.
we went with my grandparents once or twice a month to Morrison's.
Morrison's.
Yes,
That's
Morrison's.
here in the South. That's a cafeteria style. I hate to say it, but I always felt like I was in the school lunchroom when I went there, and
When you went to Morrison's?
yeah. I mean, the food was good. It was like being in a lunchroom, and I
Yeah.
thought I was back at school. But
Yeah, let's see. What else did we? We would go to the steakhouse maybe when it was somebody's birthday. We'd go.
I don't
either.
remember my mother and Daddy ever taking us to get a steak.
Well, now my mama
he
didn't.
always cooked the steaks.
Well, my grandparents always took us. Like if it was my mom, we didn't go out to eat. We cooked at home, but my grandparents would take us once. If it was a special birthday or something, we'd go out and get a steak.
Yeah.
But that was very, very rare. And I think we've gotten away from that, and that's one thing that stops us from saving money. Whether we're working or whatever, we're gotten away from that kind of thing. I guess it's the society we're living in. We want to go out to eat and have a steak every time we turn around.
And like looking back at our grandparents, they never went out.
I
eat.
know.
I mean, they were so frugal, and
Now we didn't most of the time though. That was for a birthday or once a month. We would go to Morrison's most of the time.
But I bet when they were growing up, they never went out.
No,
where would they go? They lived out here in the country,
right?
Now
my grandfather used to tell stories. There was 17 of them, and they had to eat whatever they could find. And
It was probably stuff you wouldn't eat now.
No, it was stuff he would tell me they ate turtle, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
I just don't.
I mean, but you can try those things. I mean,
I don't think I'm going to do it.
Well, not a turtle, but maybe if you've never, went hunting for some squirrels or something, just try something new, that's what maybe you can try to do. And if you have it, maybe like what we've thought about doing is getting in with the neighbors and maybe having a cow butchered and paying for that. That would put you some meat in the freezer and last for, a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I do remember my grandparents raised cattle, and they raised just for themselves, and they
would send them to
there
be
was
processed?
there was always a freezer or two full of meat in there, and so they did that, and it was I'm telling you, it was really good.
Now, like we said before, the other things maybe make sure you put your food up, but like just think about your scraps that you have. If you can use that in a composting pile and build that up, maybe through the winter time, that'll help you instead of buying the soil for your garden that you sometimes need. And fertilizer for your garden. If you'll make you a compost pile, that'll help you.
Yeah, and that's another thing our grandparents did. I don't remember my grandfather ever going to the store to get soil.
No,
we had this big pile.
Fertilizer. Yeah,
he had a big pile. Now he may have went to get fertilizer. I don't remember, but there was a big pile, and the cow manure went in it. Threw the eggs in it,
right.
table scraps, and he used it for the garden, and we would shovel it up, put it in the wheelbarrow.
That's right.
And look, it wasn't like a, like now we have the riding lawnmowers with the trailers. We had the wheelbarrow back then
with the shovel,
and the shovel, and moved it around, and
we would actually have to go. We didn't have cows when I was real little. And we would go to the neighbors, pick up the manure.
Did you?
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
we did do that. We went and
I actually would like to do that now.
Right.
Get for the garden
instead of buying stuff, and you can also use, of course, your chicken. After that breaks down.
Now we do that. Now we put it. Of course, this shows how different we are. We put it in the tractor and take it to the garden.
Instead of a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, instead of the wheelbarrow, and we dump it in the garden during the off season, and then we'll disc it up and mix it in there so it'll break down. Coming out of the chicken house, the stuff out of the chicken house is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we do that, And another thing is, go to yard sales,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know. Now Scott
or
used to
thrifts,
hate the
or
yard sales,
I
and he
still
doesn't
do.
like them very well. But you still can find some things at those yard sales. Sometimes you can find some tools that are useful. You
Your
know,
sister and them, they do
yeah.
good at.
My sister loves going. They go yard selling and find stuff all the time. But that's one thing that maybe you could do is go yard selling. There is yard sales here all the time.
And if you need garden tools, stuff like that, even maybe some canning jars, if you can clean them up real good, you can get those at yard sales.
You sure can.
So,
Yeah.
and these thrift stores, there's a lot of those around. Go to the thrift stores instead of going to the box stores, and you can save a lot of money. And some stuff you can look around and buy used.
That's right. That's right.
Online.
And I know, like, you don't really need. A lot of people like to buy brand name clothes and stuff, but you don't really need, maybe a nice pair to wear to church or if you're going out or something. But as far as clothes, you don't really have to have name brand clothes if you're on Homestead. So
I don't think we've ever had, even when we weren't. Did
yeah, no. I mean, we have a few nicer clothes, name brand for church or whatever, but not.
I don't wear name brand, do I?
Yeah, you do to church. So.
Well, I didn't know it, so it really didn't.
He don't know what name brand is, so.
Well, I know what it means, but I don't. What name?
You don't know the name brand.
What name brand was it?
Chaps. You have a Chaps shirt.
Is that a big name brand?
Yes.
I just see that shows you name brands don't.
That don't mean anything.
But yeah, I mean, and something else. Speaking of clothes, we don't do this now, but I remember like cleaning rags and stuff.
Yeah.
Save your old T-shirts.
I still do that.
Okay, I don't do this, but like my mom used to save underwear, and that was what you used to dust. That you used to dust with the underwear.
Well, I do use socks.
But like she never bought any kind of
dusting rag or anything.
Dusting rags. You didn't dust with the paper
your old
towel.
Clothes. Yeah.
It was old T-shirts and stuff like that.
So that's when that's a thought though. You can use your old tore up clothes for dust rags.
Really,
or rags outside.
Yeah, at rags out. Yeah, that's right. And so, and another thing to do is kind of like we talked about the DIY stuff. We are in this society where, and sometimes it's hard to repair things, but we're in this society where it's throw away everything. And they're like the TVs and stuff like that, but you're really not, a lot of things aren't in your control, but you're try to fix things instead of throwing them away.
Yeah.
I think your washing machine broke, and we were able to get a part online for what, $20 or $30?
So my washing machine would not wash because the sensor went out I think it was for the hot water. So
it was the little valve thing.
Yeah, it's a little valve thing in there. And so we actually ordered a part, Scott looked up how to do it on YouTube, and we changed the part out, and
it just cost $30. One time we had this refrigerator that was about a month out of warranty.
Yep.
And it had a problem.
Part of I think it was the refrigerator part went out. The freezer part was still, it was a side by side. Yeah. The freezer part was still working.
It was the heater for the defroster went out, I think.
Yeah.
And we did find a part at one of the bigger towns about, I think, 90 miles from here.
Yep.
And we got it fixed.
Went to that warehouse, took a day trip, went to the warehouse, picked it up,
got
brought
it
it back.
fixed and saved from having to buy a new one. It doesn't always work that way. Obviously make sure you can safely do that, but a lot of things can be repaired, instead of just throwing it away.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that'll help you out and give you some ideas. And if you've got some ideas on saving money, and some little things to do, or maybe there's some things you grew up with, or your grandparents.
Right,
They.
right. Another thought is, if there's something that you don't use a whole lot, you know, make friends with your neighbors. If you're out in the
And
country like we are, your neighbors usually have at least a small garden if they're not doing a whole homestead. And you can exchange, a trailer if you needed to use a trailer or something like that on the homestead instead of buying one. Usually your neighbor may help you, or if you need to haul something or something like that. Like I said, getting the compost, the manure from a neighbor, you could do that also for your garden.
yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes you can get them to disc it up instead of buying a tractor to
that's
do it.
right.
If you
That's
need
right.
it, it'd be a lot cheaper than that
Yeah,
to
and
do that.
usually they'll say, "Hey, just give me some corn when you get your corn out of your
Yeah,
garden."
right.
So, yeah,
So
make friends with your neighbors
that's
because they
right.
can help you a lot.
Well, hopefully this stream's been helpful. We're trying to do these homesteading streams, live streams every weeknight at 7:30. And if you've got a suggestion for a topic, please let us know in the comments below.
Yep, and we're gonna also try to do maybe a fireside chat, on Fridays or once a week, whenever, if as long as it's not raining. So we'd love for y'all to join us on that day when we do our fireside chat. And then we'll be on tomorrow also.
Right. So we hope to see you tomorrow. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.